I want everybody to, hey Joe Counter, how you like that new emblem? See that artwork? Pretty nice, huh? Okay. Huh?
Yeah, where's that flag? What you guys working say? This is
Well, I welcome everybody. Let's all stand and let's have our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Johnson, will you come forward? Come to the front. Right? Here, come on up, sir. Now, first of all, tell us just a little bit about you. Less than 30 seconds to make it.
My name's Randy Johnson. I'm an attorney. Started out in the district attorney's office and ran for Court of Appeals against Jim Hill in Boston. I guess that's a good thing because I'm going to be out of the job too right now. Anyway, glad to be here.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Joe, will you please come forward and let's have the Texas pledge and let's. Wait a minute, just hold this thing down. There you go. Joe, come on up. Now, Joe, introduce yourself. You're a new member.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm Joe Valent. Thanks for having me. I just became a Santa last month, went to Santa school. So, 'tis the season.
all right, Joe.
All right. Honor the Texas
Texas
flag.
flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Joe. Now, Joe, you're from Minnesota?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't have allegiance, pledge allegiance to our state in Michigan.
We don't.
Not in Michigan.
Oh.
It's not as good.
Let's remain standing and will Professor Niederkorn, David, will you come forth and lead us in an invitation?
You don't want to hear anything about me?
David, we'll give you 31 seconds. So,
Let's go. Let's pray. Dear Lord God, thank you for your love and grace and many mercies in our lives and on our group here together. Thank you for this opportunity to join once a month and to again to learn and study things that matter and impact our lives, to hang out with our friends and brothers and sisters, and ask that you would give us a fulfilling time this evening, a profitable time this evening. Bless everything that we do. Bless our leaders. And thank you for those who serve our country even at this moment. Ask that you keep them safe. And thank you for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, please have a seat. Now, who are we? And what makes us a little bit different? We are the traditional Republican Party of Collin County. Joe Counter, how old are we? We're 52 years old.
51, I was going to say.
51, you're
52.
close enough. Okay,
We're the
close
same.
enough.
We've been around the same amount of time.
Judge Rush, how many years you've been a member of our Collin County Republican Men's Club? Now, Judge, I don't want to delay the answer.
There was a 7-year gap.
Okay.
Minus that 7-year gap, 28 years?
28 years. Are you sure about that, Judge?
No.
Okay. Young man, when were you president of our club?
1984,
1984.
the year that Dick Armory ran for Congress.
All right. Very good. Here's another past president of our club. Mark, when were you president?
Twice, 2001, 2004.
All right. Sounds good to me. All right. Now, Jim, you want to show that? You want to show our little tape?
We do have Dixie here. She probably ought to see her interview.
Yes. All right. Thanks to the technology and skills of Jim Wartsfield, let's
Mark
review.
Friedland.
Okay, Mr. Friedland. Where is Mark?
He's hiding.
All right. Fabulous job, Mark. Okay.
Wow. Disco.
I like it.
Jump off.
I'm Dixie Clem. I had the privilege of organizing the Collin County Republican Men's Club in February 1969. Right after we opened the Republican headquarters, December the 2nd, 1968, I was given the job of doing a post-election survey. And the only new precinct that we had at that time them, would you be interested in a Republican Men's Club, Women's Club, or a Couples Club? So since Dallas County was the closest city near us that had a men's club, we borrowed people from that club to come as our speakers. So we organized the Plano County Republican Men's Club, and we met on a Saturday morning for breakfast in McKinney because it was a county club. And we did that for a number of years before we moved it back to Plano. But at that time, I served for the first 2 years as their secretary, kept their minutes, attended their club, always liked about early morning going up to eat breakfast. But we didn't have elected officials, so we wanted our people to learn what each office in the county stood for and for their duties. So we even invited some Democrats to come and speak, because that's the only thing that we've had as elected officials. As the time went on, the purpose was so we would have what we call the backbone of the Republican Party was the men's club, because men are out looking for candidates and very interested. We already had a women's club. But that year, same year, we organized the Republican Women's Club in Canyon Creek. So that gave us 2 women's clubs and 1 men's club. So we were very fortunate. So at the men's club, they learned the duties of all the offices in Collin County, even for a district judge, for a DA, and then they came back and they helped raise funds for candidates, and some of them turned out to be candidates. So we were very fortunate in having a very good, active Republican Men's Club, and I'm very pleased that they're still active and they're growing all the time. That means our community, the whole county, is interested in better government.
That sure is an old language.
I'm Wayne Tucker. I was the president of the Collin County Republican Men's Club in 1993, 1994. We had pretty much got control of Collin County for the Republican Party. And I think we were in a transition from being a dinner club who had speakers at Tino's, and that was always fun, to a real service organization that worked for candidates. One of the things I did my second year, and the logistics were a nightmare, but we went all over Collin County having meetings in different restaurants and different places to kind of lose that mantra of really being the Plano Republican Men's Club, made ourselves the Collin County Republican Men's Club. Just as a side how effective that can be, when I was on the SRC, I suggested to Chairman Weddington that we travel around Texas. The SRC met, we went to the belly of the beast, El Paso, Beaumont, Galveston. We went to Laredo. In the morning that we got up to have our meeting, the Laredo paper had 3.5-inch headlines that said, GOP comes to Valley. There's value in what we do right here in Collin County. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jerry Yancey. I was a county Republican Party Men's Club president in 1978. To me, that was a watershed year for the Republican Party in the county because of the fact that Bill Clements defeated Mark White in the gubernatorial election that year. It was very significant to me because on election night, I had gone to bed thinking that we had lost because Bill Clements was behind when I went to bed. I woke up the next morning to my elation that Bill Clements had pulled ahead and won the election. So that was my really fine thing to happen during that year of my presidency, and hope that all the other presidents have an occasion like that to celebrate as well.
Hi, I'm Roger Baldwin. I've been a member of the Collin County Republican Men's Club for over 20 years. I've made a lot of good friends. It's a great organization, one of the best here in the county. I was president in 2009, 2010. One of the things that really stuck out in my mind is the period over that time, we joined with the USO to welcome home troops. It got so popular that our two congressmen, Sam Johnson and Ralph Hall, would join us to welcome the troops, both being veterans. It was really great and very good publicity for our club.
Good job, Tom.
Okay. And again, thanks to Jim and Mark. Give them a round of applause. What we've done, we've gone back through all of our presidents and done a little tape, and so next month we have another group on it. And what's the purpose of all this? Is to grow our membership. And I am proud to say, Jim, how many PayPal did we have this week?
In the last 3 weeks, we've had 6. I think.
6, all right. We were sitting at 93 or 95 members, paid members, as of the first of the month. Our goal is to get the 100 member mark by the end of the year. So Judge Rush, your quota is 2 new members. Okay?
Yes, sir.
No, but invite your neighbor, invite your friends, I've been telling Kay Bear today, bring anybody but your dog, right? Leave the dog at home, but bring it. Yes, sir.
And again, if you join now, before now and the end of the year, it counts for 2019 membership too. So
Very
you get
good
a month
point.
or two for free.
Very good
Heck of a
point.
deal.
All right, and so the magic started in January, and I appreciate our team, all the officers, and the magic continues for 2019. That being the case, we got to take just a couple of minutes and have a little business. So, John, you want to come up? It's election of officers, so will you go and read the slate?
Thank you, Richard. As you know, every year, the Collin County Republican Men's Club has a committee that gets together, our nominations committee. We discuss and interview people, and we ask for those who are interested in participating in the leadership of the club. We're very transparent. We make this announcement several months beforehand for anybody that's interested in becoming an officer and get involved in the club. So before we announce that, I just want one last time ask, is there anybody that would like to be part of the leadership team that we haven't already talked to, or that has an interest in that? Now is the time to look forward. This is for next year, 2019. So, not saying that, I'm here tonight as the chair of the nominations committee, and I'm very pleased to present to you our suggested officers for the year 2019. For in the role of president, to retain Richard Dotson as president. For the president-elect, who would serve in that position as president-elect, who would then actually become president in 2020, will be Robbie John. For vice president of programs, as you know, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And we actually have 3 individuals that will be involved with programs for next year. They are John Myers, Brett Walsh, and David Niederkorn. For vice president of membership, that's a lot of work and reaching out and all, we have Joe Valiant, obviously. Joe, thank you for that. And Wendell Brock. For the newsletter and communications, we have Taylor Rogers and Eric Novak. Our secretary, Sam, where's Sam tonight? He's doing a super job. Thank you very much, Sam Bentry. Treasurer, and keeping in all the books in proper order as he has done this last year. We are very pleased to have Tim McCord that we're putting forward in that position again. The webmaster, as you know, communication has changed over the years. Communication is now done via email, social media, website, all those things. And so we have 2 individuals be working together, Delar Height and Eric Novak. So thank you all, obviously, Delar, for all the work that you've done with us in the last several years. for our club liaison, which is a very important position, representing this club to other organizations, Republican and other organizations within Collin County itself. We have Jim Bortsfield, so Jim, thank you for that. And one of the toughest jobs of all, and that is keeping all of you in line at our Sergeant at Arms. We actually have to have 3 individuals for that position. Okay? So Mike Yarborough, Steve Powell, and Chris O'Reilly. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, on behalf of the Nominations Committee, I move the adoption of these officers for the year 2019.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay.
Who seconded? I'm gonna make a note of that.
Thank you very much.
Well, we need to vote on it.
I was going to say, John, let's call for a vote. Motion's before the floor, be second. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, it carries.
Okay. Now it's legal.
Jim?
Richard.
I don't have to. We know, I know. Hey, but does anybody want to join our team? Let me know. Don't hesitate. You guys, okay, we need a lot of talent, and it's going to take a lot of work. And we're going to reach that mark of 200. Let's just be real candid. That's our purpose. The traditional Republican club is having a rebirth, okay? And people are interested. This election reflects the need that we represent here, all right? So, that being said, now, we have quite a unique speaker this evening. Now, I don't know how many have been around when Sam Johnson first ran for office, but it's a number of years back. Come on, fellas, you can have up your hand. How many people, wasn't it 5 or 6 people that he, in that first office, that ran for that representative, correct? And then he won out of 5 or 6, 9 or 10. 13 or 14. That's all right.
Steve Bartlett from Dallas ran at that time when the district ran in Dallas.
I remember Steve Bartlett.
Got a photo.
Ray Wheeler,
Ray ran for that?
Ray, Sam, Brian.
Then you can,
But not against, oh, here, now, you're talking about District 3 race.
yeah.
Oh, I
I
thought
think
you
it
were
is.
talking
All right,
about.
our speaker tonight, Mr. Ed Valentine, will extend upon his analysis of the 2018 election. Okay? Again, if you live in Collin County and you've been involved in working with candidates and supporting candidates, you either directly or indirectly deal with Mr. Valentine. Okay? He's helped many, many of our elected officials. Sir, will you please come forth and give us your opinion We've got to do a lot of technical planning.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
We'd like to hear you on Facebook
All right.
Live, if that's okay.
Sure.
If you just click that on your nose or.
My notes. Big notes, small mic.
now, do you need this light on? It's no problem. Would it be
Uh,
best?
Sure.
Okay, let me get it turned on.
I'm a data guy, so I got lots of stuff here because I'm ready for questions and stuff like that. Whew, it is so good to be in Collin County. I had just running into folks like Fred and Dixie. I mean, just kind of being here, I'm thinking about, wow, I mean, how impactful Collin County has been on my life. Sam Johnson was my flight instructor. I was doing, yeah, I'm going way off script. I'll just, real quick, I was doing public policy research for the Texas Public Policy Foundation. I was down in Austin, and I had tried to get into flight school with the Navy, and took the flight physical, and found out I had a red-green deficiency. I didn't even know what that was. And so they said, well, you can't fly our airplanes, but we got a great sub program. I was like, I don't think I'm interested in that. And then 9 months later, I'm down in Austin, and I meet Sam Johnson, and somebody said, hey, Ed likes airplanes, and you know, Sam comes up to me and goes, so I hear you like airplanes. I go, yeah. He goes, you want to learn how to fly? I said, sure. He said, well, I got 172. I'm flying back to Dallas, and you want to come with us? I was like, okay. And so we flew back to Dallas. We landed. He goes, are you still interested? And I said, yeah, I think I am. And so it was probably around here somewhere, Plano North. It was just a little airport. And I still remember the 8 Golf Mike was the 152 that we flew in, and then Sam decided to run for Congress. And ended up, I was working with Tex Lazar, who was the Chief of Staff of Justice for Reagan, and Mary Spade, who was one of the communications directors at the Reagan White House. And so off we went, and Sam's campaign, and Sam ended up winning, and I lost my flight instructor, and he said, well, Ed, why don't you come up and work for me in Austin? I said, well, Sam, with all due respect, I've flown with you, I do not want to work for you. But we're great friends, his daughter Beverly works for me, and it's been a heck of a ride. So here we are, let's talk about 2018, enough reminiscing. So what happened nationally, statewide, and locally? I really think, and Richard, this group is becoming more and more impactful. Voters sent a message. What's that message? More importantly, are politicians going to get that message? Nationally, the losses in the House may or may not have been a repudiation of President Trump. I tend to think not. Why is that? Well, the losses in the House were less this year than they were for Obama in 2010, for Clinton in 1994. Republicans turned 63 Democrat-held seats in 2010, and they gained 7 in the Senate. Republicans gained in the Senate this time. The storm surge of Democrats was not as great as predicted, and there's still a few races nationally that haven't been decided. I got a funny text from Joe Counter the other day. He's one of my longest serving political friends. It was about the Florida race. It was titled Electile Dysfunction. Call your doctor if your election lasts for more than 4 days. I still think they have a little electile dysfunction down in Georgia, where Brian Kemp ran a really effective Republican primary campaign. But the problem is he kept running a Republican primary campaign into the general election. And I talk to candidates all the time, and you know they get through the primary and they just don't realize that, hey, I gotta shift my message a little bit so I have a broader appeal. You know, running that message through a general is a big no-no. Newt Gingrich recently was on Fox News with Karl Rove, and I know both people, and you know, they've got very different perspectives on this, and I tend to lean towards what Newt is talking about. He said Kemp ran a campaign of small ideas, and this is a big idea guy, and he didn't pay attention to suburban women. Women are so pivotal in these elections. We'll come back and talk about that a little bit more later. But there were women running for office on both sides and were much more successful than men. But I want to talk a little bit, I want to come back to Texas and talk a little bit about my neighborhood, Texas 32, Pete Sessions. Sessions' loss is very similar to that of Richard Lugar in Indiana 6 years ago. I've got family in Indiana, a lot of friends up there, own some property up there. My dad was from there. And, gosh, I can't remember the guy. He came down here, Dick Armey had him at the one of the clubs down here introducing him. And I called back up and to Indiana and said, what do you think about this guy? He's running against Dick Lugar in the primary. We're going to vote for him. Why are you going to vote for him? Well, we don't see Senator Lugar anymore. I mean, Lugar was senator when I was in high school in Indiana. And he moved up to Washington. He had just lost touch with Indiana. So fast forward, here we are, CD 32, Pete Sessions. He's running around the country raising money for Republicans, which is a good thing. he's predominantly splitting his time between Florida, Texas, and Washington, and had lost touch. I did not get a single piece of mail from Pete Sessions. Didn't get a phone call from Pete Sessions. Wasn't asked to put a yard sign in my yard by Pete Sessions. And along comes Colin Allred. He's like, look, hey, I was raised by a single mom. I grew up in the district. I don't talk about I didn't have a dad. I talk about what a great mom I had. He's a really likable guy. I was taking my son to school the other day, and I had to take a little shortcut because there was traffic. Drove down this street, and there's a sign for Colin Allred and Republican Morgan Meyer. Morgan won, barely, but he hung on and he won. The margins in a lot of these U.S. House races are just, they're razor thin, as is Nancy Pelosi's skin when it comes to Donald Trump. And, you know, we've seen this, yeah, she might be our best asset. You know, we've seen this time and time again in midterms. There are going to be some seats, and I think CD 32 with the right candidate, they're going to flip back the other way. We saw it in 1994. We had this Republican class, this wave that came in, and there are people like Steve Stockman from down in Houston, who was a one-hit wonder. He came in, he won that seat, boom, gone 2 years later. So I really think we'll have some wins with the right candidates in 2 years. We can make significant gains. Will we take the House back? I don't know. But with the right messaging, with the right candidates, I think we can make a difference. And speaking of messaging, let's kind of shift to it's a little bit about national stuff. We can talk about that later, or if you have any questions about that. But I want to talk about Texas a little bit. And I want you to think about, and this is one thing that Sam did every year. He had Frank Wantz come in. Frank and I have known each other a long time before I really got involved in politics, to the extent that I am. But we were in a wedding together. His college roommate and I were friends, and we were in a wedding together. And you know, Frank does this great thing where he talks about, you know, what moves voters. And I want you to just think about all the ads. Maybe you want to forget about them, but let's just take a minute. Let's think about all the ads that you've seen on TV, on radio, from, you know, statewide politicians, because I want to talk federal, then I want to talk about state, and then local. So think about Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, Ken Paxton, and Ted Cruz. Okay, so I'm in the business, Joe, you're in the business, y'all are real involved in politics. So let's start at the top of the ticket. Ted Cruz. I mean, I just thought about this, I'm like, okay, I just want to think for a second about these. I have no idea. Maybe I'm fighting for you in Washington. Ken Paxton. No clue. I remember his opponent's ad talking about him being indicted. Dan Patrick. I remember the truck that he drove, classic, you know, pickup truck. And I thought it was odd. He talked about liking Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott. Flying around in a helicopter, surveying damage, real tight edits, just seamless edits of him rolling in the wheelchair in different locations, here, there, wherever it is, and talking about accomplishments, talking about education, talking about keeping children safe. You know, Newt Gingrich talked about the Kemp race in Georgia, and how Kemp ran that Republican primary, and he ignored some of the areas of Atlanta, and he ignored women voters. Women, whether they're suburban women, whether they're inner city women, they saw this with Donald Trump. They like someone that's going to keep them safe. Women are a big part of the electorate. Huge. there was one thing that Frank told me. I went to the last presidential debate in Las Vegas, and he said that he'd never seen this before, that, you know, Trump was just tanking with voters, making his remarks about, you know, John McCain and losers and blah, blah, blah. And he also saw it with Mitt Romney, that when they appeared strong, that the numbers went through the roof with women. But then Romney let his foot off the gas, kind of let Obama kind of get the upper hand, and it was over. Trump never did that. Trump was always preaching about strength, protection, growing the economy, and so, I mean, this philanderer, his appeal with women was very strong. So here you have Greg Abbott. I mean, he's in a wheelchair. He's in a wheelchair. I'm that judge, well, soon to be Judge Abbott. I did all the data for his campaign down in Houston when he first ran, and I remember just kind of talking to him in his office about the wheelchair, and he goes, Ed, this wheelchair is the best darn fundraising tool anybody ever made. And he went on to win that election, and the rest is history. But here he is. He's energetic. And what's more is he is likable. I mean, you see those ads and you like him. You look at the statewide candidates. I want to talk about the order that they appear. All right? And this is where I get into the numbers. This is why I've got the notes, because I'm a data guy. Okay? Cruz, 50.9%. I'm going to throw Van Taylor in here because Van's from this area. 54.3%. Greg Abbott, this is the order they appear on the ballot, 55.8%. Dan Patrick, 51.3%. George P. Bush, the Bush name, 53.7%. Sid Miller, 51.3%. Who is Sid Miller? He did as good or better than Cruz, Patrick, and Paxton.
Wow.
Speaking of Paxton, 50.6%. Abbott is in the middle of the pack. He's right in the middle. So you think about it, and you start at the top of the ticket, and that's usually where most of the votes go. Abbott's in the middle of the pack, but he leads the pack by as much as 5 percentage points. The key to this election, Joe, you know this, every election, you start with likability. The only one bucking the system on that is Donald Trump. He has tens of millions of Twitter followers, so he can go around, you know, the fake media and talk about whatever he wants to talk about because he's got a direct connection to voters. Who said I'm a uniter, not a divider? Bush. Yep. There were a lot of divisive people that underperformed in this election. And they don't have tons of Twitter followers. The question for them is, what did they learn? I heard a great quote the other day from Republican State Representative Jonathan Stickler over in Tarrant County. He said, this election was a wake-up call. And he's right. The amazing thing is that he claims to have gotten the message. He actually admitted, and this is a quote, that he needs to spend more time listening to his constituents. Thank you. I mean, think about that. A hard right Tea Party Republican says, I need to listen. That is huge, especially when it comes to local politics. Voters in Collin County, I really think, made a statement. Are the politicians paying attention? Right next door in Denton County, Ron Simmons, Ron's wife Lisa, my wife are good friends. Sponsor of the bathroom bill. It's gone. Matt Rinaldi. I helped out a guy in a city council campaign in Irving, Texas, and Matt decided, hey, I gotta help out. He's running against a Muslim. A Muslim! We can't have this. I mean, the stuff that he sent out was so incendiary. I had to call him and say, Matt, would you stop helping us? The only complaints that I got or about this stuff with Muslims with masks on and burning flags. And the guy was not a good guy, but he didn't burn flags. He talked about how great America was to him. Matt Rinaldi, gone. Senators Huffines and Burton, gone. That's a red flag for Collin County. Percentage-wise, there's another red flag. Straight ticket voting dropped by 12% for Republicans. It increased by 13%. This is over the last midterm, not the last election. The good news of the gospel is that straight ticket voting for Republicans and the Democrats alike was off about 3% in Collin County. So it's a wash. You've seen a significant number of people registering to vote in Collin County from 2012 to 2016. Okay, that's real important. 12 to 16, 18 there was a decline. So y'all peaked in 2018. Which brings us to back to straight ticket voting in Collin County. Republicans came in at 58.2% versus Democrats 46.5%. Greg Abbott is the only Republican candidate that outperformed straight ticket voting in Collin County. So think about that. Democrats, independents came over and said, I like Greg Abbott's message better than Luke Valdez. He doesn't. Ted Cruz was the worst performer countywide with 52.6% of the vote, and Ken Paxton was hot on his heels with 52.7%. You need to drill down to the legislative districts 66 and 67 to find people who did worse than Paxton and Cruz. In 2006, I was criticized by some Republicans because I predicted this wave of Democrats taking over in Dallas County, but the data does not lie. Every Republican lost countywide that year in 2006. The margins in countywide were really narrow. Back then, we had seen a steady 2% over, I think it was 6 years. Law firm Bear and Bud, they put a lot of money into their van software program and messaging. It was coming. I wasn't quoted correctly, imagine that. The reporter was talking to me, and I really said 2008. And then people were like, how did you know? I was like, well, I did. I said 2008. And I was also misquoted because he was talking about the sheriff's race. He was out there just a bunch of, old white guys running. Isn't that the problem with the Republican Party? I said, a bunch of old white guys. Isn't that interesting? Well, he put that in there. I repeated what he said back to him, and he put that in the article. But I don't think Collin County is there, is kind of the point where I was going. I don't think you're going to be in 2020 where Dallas was in 2006. I'll put a little asterisk by that because I think Joe might have mentioned this to me when Beto decided to keep the $38 million. That he's not running for Senate, he's running for president. And so, if he's the nominee, then, that would be impactful. But I think Collin County is more like the state, more like the nation. What do we have? We have the president, Republican. Both of our Texas senators, Republican. Every congressman was a Republican last week. Every countywide office is held by a Republican. Every county commissioner, Republican. Every state senator was Republican. Every state rep is Republican. The sheriff, constables, JPs. Who was motivating Republicans to get out and vote? No one. So what just happened? Ted Cruz and most statewide, now here I go again, white Republican males underperformed. Guess who did not underperform with straight ticket voting? It wasn't Duncan Webb. He did not win Collin County, but Beto O'Rourke outperformed straight ticket Democrats by 5.5%. So raise your hand, no, don't raise your hand. But I would venture to wager that either someone in this room or people you know who are Republican voted for Beto. Well, why would Republicans do that? It's messaging. Well, yeah.
They didn't like Cruz.
Dixie, come on. Cut me some slack here. I'm getting to that. You're getting ahead of me. She's right. She's right. What was I just talking about? Likability. I mean, you heard the ads. While Ted Cruz was in all 99 counties in Iowa, and I have been to Iowa, and let me tell you, you have to go to all 99 counties in Iowa. I was in all 254 counties in Texas. No, he was not. I know people in Deaf Smith County. I know people in Loving County, the smallest county in Texas. I know people in Atascosa County. That ad hit, and people were calling me, going, "Hey, we didn't see Beto. We've called the Republican headquarters in Austin, and we've gone, he hasn't been here. He hasn't been here." Nobody's listening.
Maybe he just drove through.
Yeah, maybe.
I've been there. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it comes at what Dixie was just saying. She stole my thunder. Likability. I mean, you heard the ads. No matter what your primary affiliation is, BS. Beto is a liberal. Well, he seemed like such a nice young man. No. This guy was a drunk. He was a thief. He's a liberal. Guess what? The
Which of those three
Democrats-
things is worse?
What's that?
But he could skateboard.
The Democrats put lipstick on a pig and they almost got away with it, right? So, here's something interesting. And you can raise your hand on this. How many people in this room got a text message from Beto O'Rourke?
Everybody.
Yeah, and I'm raising my hand. I'll raise one for my wife. We don't fit that demographic. Beto outworked Ted Cruz.
You did.
I mean, no question about it. And he shared data with down ballot candidates. I know we had Dwayne Caraway, who's city councilman in Dallas. He got kickbacks and with bribes, $450 million. Lady that is running against him, I've been helping out with her city council campaign, and she's not a Republican. It's not a Republican seat, but that does sharing data with her. If Democrats had turned out more of their base, here where we are tonight in Collin County, things would be a whole lot different. 31,000 Democrats in Collin County, people who'd previously voted Democrat, stayed home on November 6, 2018. How many Republican office holders are in this room other than Dr.? Are you the only one? Fred? Here's the big takeaway. In the general election, candidates need to work on a broader scope of voters. I made the point earlier talking about Kemp up in Georgia, who ran a Republican primary in general. Duncan, did you do that? No, you did not run a Republican primary.
No, well, I mean.
We talked about that. He's nodding his head, yes, he's not paying attention. Countywide in Collin County, there are over 81,000 voters who voted in Republican elections who stayed home. Well, of course they did. They're not angry. They're not motivated. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe these are people who thought, gee, I didn't vote last time, but I'm going to get out and vote this time. So throughout party affiliation, in Washington and some extent in Austin, there's a bunch of politicians who are more worried about winning the next election and wanting to expand their sphere of influence. Maybe they want to become speaker, they want to advance in leadership, or they want to move on to the next best job as a lobbyist on K Street. And this is typically not the case in Collin County. I don't think Duncan wants to become a county or a lobbyist. You know, county judges, commissioners, JPs, and sheriffs, you know, they tend to get it. Politics is local. Nationally, I think the message is that things are getting done, but we want checks and balances. You know, the economy's moving in the right direction, but don't screw it up. Statewide, demographics are changing. There's still a long way to go before this wave of Democrats happens. I don't think Texans will tolerate the rhetoric that's being espoused in Washington. And the same thing. Focus on what's important to me, to us at home. Don't screw it up. I mean, you know, what Texas has done, we have led nationally. And, you know, we should have learned, was it North Carolina, South Carolina, they tried the bathroom bill, I think it was North Carolina. And it didn't work. But, you know, we tried the bathroom bill. Locally, the party needs to focus on the base. There's no question. Candidates need to focus on what's important at home, not in Washington, not in Austin. Listen to your constituents, be present. Don't think that, you know, you can get away with being contentious because you don't have 30 million or however million Twitter followers Donald Trump has. Joe and I worked with a guy up in Iowa on a national initiative in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, the early primary states. And Mike had the same. In God we trust. All others must produce data. I think the data supports that Collin County peaked, I think in 2016. Things have leveled off. There's some people that they didn't get the message. They're not going to be around for the next general. They'll probably get primaried out, which is, you know, part of the reason that I think what Richard said, you know, this group is going to be significantly impactful. Not that you haven't been, but look, the trend has gone way over here, and I think the message is it's coming back to a more rational Republican Party. The key is Frank Luntz. I'll go back to Frank. He's got this, I just can't remember the name of the book, but it's a great book on messaging.
It's not what you say, it's what they hear.
It's what they hear, yeah. And it is amazing how politicians get caught up in the numbers. I've thrown a lot of numbers out to you tonight. I'm not a politician. You know, the numbers don't fly. But what appeals to people's emotions? Abbott did a great job of that. Morgan Meyer, started to say Dan Branch. Morgan Meyer, who's my state representative, I mean, Pete Sessions could have been an albatross that dragged him down, but he survived, barely. But his messaging was spot on. It was right in line with Abbott's. I mean, all of his photos, all of his mail, everything he talked about. His kids were around him. He's talking about education. He's talking about things that are important to people. You know, Duncan, I think, did a pretty good job of that. You know, I looked at the numbers. What were your numbers, Duncan, on election night?
What do you mean, percentages?
Yeah, percentage.
53-47.
Okay. And those were probably under what the base was that we talked about back in August or September. But it's a comfortable margin.
Yes.
Yeah. So staying on message, staying in touch with voters, keeping your finger on the pulse with what's important. Like Sticklin said, hey, I need to do a better job of this. And we have a bunch of people. The thing that, and I've said this over and over again, Joe's heard me say it, that you know, the great thing about the Tea Party has been that they're a megaphone to a lot of things that are wrong with politics, with America. The problem is they don't have a lot of solutions. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. People want solutions. That's why Trump is in the White House. And I think that's why Abbott is down in Austin. So that's it. If you got any questions, I've got a lot of stats and numbers, anything. If yes.
So Trump seems to do a lot of hard work.
Now speak up fairly well so everybody can hear.
President Trump seemed to do a lot of hard working, more than I've seen past presidents or as much, and getting good turnout of the base. How well did that work?
Well, you look at Indiana. Mike Braun is a guy that Trump came out and endorsed in the primary. I think there's a couple of senators that Trump came out and endorsed in the primaries, and they've done very well. I mean, people that have gone against Trump, they just haven't fared as well. So look, it's a midterm, and the president's not going to. It's the way of the world. He's just not going to do as well in a midterm. If this happens in 2020, if we don't pick up some houses or seats in the House, then that's going to be very telling of Trump's presidency. And who's it going to be run against? Is it going to be Beto? Is it going to be Starbucks chairman? That one scares me. That one really scares me because you've got another businessman. And wasn't it interesting that if the Democrats hadn't cheated, that both Republicans and Democrats might have had anti-establishment candidates. I mean, think about that. Both the left and the right were disenfranchised with politics as usual. So.
In 2017, our legislature got rid of straight ticket voting in
Yes.
2020. What do you think the impact? Isn't that going to hurt us down ballot? They can't explain to me why they did it.
Yeah, the Democrats have done such a great job of educating voters on straight ticket voting, and they have for years. And that's a lot of what Barron and Budd worked on. I mean, I had a Republican judge sitting in my office, and I think it was 2006, and I was talking about, cherry picking down the ballot, and he goes, "You can do that?" A Republican judge did not know that I can go push straight ticket, and then I can cherry pick my way down the ballot. So I think it's going to help Republicans. I don't know, Joe, do you agree with that?
I'll just say this, without straight ticket voting, if that would have happened, if this same elections would have happened, again, I haven't looked at the numbers in any of these individual races, but without straight ticket voting, you would not have State Representative Jeff Leach today. You would not have State Representative Matt Shaheen. Okay? And think about what happened to those two guys in particular. Okay? They won by 1 point and 2 point respectively.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't think straight ticket voting in Collin County carried them? Of course it did. Okay? So that's where it may backfire on Republicans, but overall straight ticket voting tends to help the Democrats because they do a much better job at getting low information voters to the polls. And they just go in and I'm just here to vote and I'm going to vote Democrat, and they do a good job at that. So
yeah, the ones that I heard about were Matt Shaheen. Yeah. Everybody thought was going away. Rinaldi, Rodney Anderson. I was like, really, Rodney? I did not hear Ron Simmons' name mentioned in those conversations, though. So it'll be interesting to see.
What happened that so many Fifth Court of Appeal judges lost out?
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so Dallas County has always been a big issue. And so Collin County normally carries them across the finish line. They're all going, Collin County didn't get us there. But gosh, we just got shellacked in Dallas County.
Way back.
Now, has the demographics changed that much from people? Go ahead, Dixie.
Go ahead, what were you saying, Dixie?
Way back, Dallas County had elected officials. They were Republicans.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, that faded away.
Yes.
And that surprised me because there's an awful lot of Republicans in Dallas County. But now, with your county judge and your mayor and all like that, that has quite a big thing to play
Mhm.
in elections.
Yeah.
The elected officials that you have. If Dallas County's not gonna get any better and we're gonna keep losing like Pete Sessions and various ones, the Republicans are going to have to do something about the horrible hatred that's in the world right now.
Yes.
And people pay attention, which I do too, to the National Party.
Mhm.
But to me, I would say a good bit of it boils down to good leadership. And if we can keep good leadership, okay. But I don't think our Republican Party state has good leadership right now.
Well, Dallas had some issues. I mean, Susan Hawk, with all of her stuff, and then Faith Johnson gets appointed, and she's an attractive candidate, but on base. And Faith and I have known each other for 30 years, but worked on the campaign. She was very hands-on, very controlling, and there's really not a big difference between her and Crusoe. You got guys like Toby Shook, who ran for Republican DA, who was supporting Crusoe. Crusoe used to be a Republican.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Beto's impact was huge.
We're doing something I think that's very bad in Collin County. We're eating our own.
Republicans do that everywhere.
But
It's not
we are
just
doing
Collin
it big
County.
time here.
Well, it's not just here. I mean, when you've got a Democrat congressman in Louisiana who gets found with $100,000 in his freezer in his office and he gets reelected, a Republican couldn't do that. I mean, we do that everywhere. It's not just here.
Look, here locally, my two state reps, each won 51% to 49%, Paxton and Leach.
Well, wait, Paxton State Senator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, yeah. A lot of Paxtons around.
Yeah.
That's a separate question. We'll do that one in the after party. Neither one of those two candidates ran a campaign. They never talked to their opponents. They never said, this is what I stand for. There's no debates. There's a few mailers, and that's it.
Yeah.
It seems obvious to me that if we're going to be at this statistical tie, doesn't the Collin County Republican Party have to step up and make sure its candidates are able to debate their opponents and actually put these events on and actually run campaigns? I don't see a campaign around here. And just a quick, have you seen an example of a climate like what we have here where we're on the teeter, where a party steps up to the plate and does something along those lines and is successful?
So typically, the party will work the base and kind of the candidates will work the swing voters. I don't know if Duncan, I mean, tell me, was the party working the base strong enough?
I think Victory 2018 worked the base very hard. I think you were right that we worked the swing. I mean, that's pretty much everyone I walked, the neighborhoods who I talked to was a swing voter. I relied on the base, the turnout.
Yeah.
Unlike the reps, I feel very strongly that straight ticket voting did me in and narrowed my margin down dramatically on the Democratic side.
Joe, you live up here, I mean.
Well, I think your comments are right on, but, I don't see I mean, I looked at the number, you've looked at the numbers in Collin County. I mean, what is our percentage advantage right now in Collin County? Okay, straight ticket voting, 18%,
It's happened to have.
plus 18%. Abbott won by how much here in Collin County? 17, 18%?
So Abbott, 2018, straight ticket, Republicans 58.2%, Democrats 41.2%.
Van Taylor won,
Yep.
how much, 10%?
54.2, and I think Sam's last, Sam's kind of a local hero, 61%.
Lieutenant Governor, how'd he do?
He underperformed.
No, in Collin. What was it?
Yeah, in Collin County, he
10 points, 12 points?
54.17.
And then when you add, okay, so that's at the top of the ticket. But when you add, look at the bottom of the ticket. Look at how some of the most of the contested candidates did. They won by 12 points. They won by 15 points.
Yeah.
Okay. There was only really 4 races that stood out. Okay. There was Angela Paxson.
Yep.
She only won by 5 or 6 points. Duncan?
No,
she
here, 51.9. Squeaked it out. Angela was.
Here in Collin.
Yeah, I mean, she.
Duncan, what were you, 5 or 6%?
She can perform about right, about 52%.
6%, yeah. And then, of course, we talked about the 2 state reps that only won,
Yeah, 51.
you know, they were more anomalies than the overall picture.
Right.
So I don't think there's cause for a great amount of concern in Collin County, if we're talking about in Collin County. Because overall, even with the Beto effect, Republicans did very well, top of the ticket throughout. It was only in a few races, and there has to be individual reasons why those. I tend to believe that Mr. Leach and Mr. Shaheen must not have run very aggressive races.
Probably not. I was involved limited with Leach, but.
Yeah.
All right, Eric?
Yeah, I was curious, what 1 or 2 or however many issues do you think the Democrats were able to use to capture if they did, the quote-unquote suburban women, or what was missing in the Republican message, either in Texas or nationally? Whatever your base of knowledge is, do you think it is?
Well, and Duncan and I talked about this a little early on, and Kenny Marchant did some polling. I mean, got to go back and remember. I mean, education was key. I just got to go back to the likability factor. I mean, people just don't like Ted Cruz.
Do you think that is partly because of the 2016?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Trump butchered him pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly didn't help them, and Dewhurst had so many problems in LA. I don't know, Joe. I think there were a lot of Dewhurst Republicans that just like I just can't vote for that guy. I mean, how do you see the uptick with Beto? I mean, there are Republicans that voted for Beto.
Is it dangerous to say that suburban women have a higher affinity for a feeling rather than
Absolutely.
men? Or is it there were more women supposedly running? Certainly there were more on the Democrat side.
Angela,
is there an affinity?
Angela underperformed. I mean, she's not counting, when I look at the count, I was looking at county-wide numbers. I didn't drill down to all the individual races. I picked out 66 and 67 because they way underperformed. But yeah, I mean, I don't really get the whole Angela thing unless, she's just hooked to Ken and they were just blasting him with being under indictment and what have you. And he's from Collin County, so people are probably a little more in tune with that here in Collin County.
Well, there's a pretty bloody battle between she and Huffines.
Huffines.
Too. Yeah.
But then the other Huffines is gone. I think did he have a little bit of Collin County in his district? None of Collin.
Kind of Garland through
A lot of young men here looking to politics as an alternative. They're successful businessmen. What would you go and tell them, how would they look at entering the leadership role in our county and in our state?
Good question.
I mean, Joe and I saw this in 2012, which is, why I think Trump was successful. A friend of mine called me up and he said, Ed, hey, I want to go to this Trump rally. I've been to so many rallies. I was like, really? And I called a friend of mine who worked for Trump, and I said, hey, can you get me a couple of tickets? I said, yeah. So I got a friend that wants to go. Okay, when are you guys going? I'm like, well, I'm not going. Well, I can get you in it, but, you just got to go with you. And I walked into the AAC and just looked around. I'm like, oh my gosh, he is connecting with people. Mitt Romney, he didn't connect. And that was Frank's whole thing. He came back, connected with women, and then he lost it. So I think the electorate is starving for leaders. I know
For leadership.
they're starving for real leadership, not rhetoric. So, if you're a business guy, do you really want to put yourself through this? Would be my first question. Trump did it. He could sustain it. He doesn't care. I mean, you got to have a thick skin. You got to go into this and go, look, I care, but I don't care about all the stuff that's going to come my way. So if your record is clean, if you know what the heck you're doing, then by all means, jump in, get involved, run for office. Because we need people that know how to do things. Yes?
With the Beto effect and kind of the Democrats bringing out the skateboards and the avocado toast,
Yeah.
what is the Republican equivalent, or is there a conversation happening in the Republican base for that millennial vote and the zennial vote that's coming up that, I know there's Young Americans Foundation, there's stuff happening on campus, and free speech is a big part of that, and I think the free speech platform is going to capture a lot of the young vote going into the next decade. But what is the party and the base doing now to try to capture that young vote that the Democrats are outperforming us on?
We didn't do anything this
Well,
year.
I got to
And
tell
our
you.
young Republicans, a little bit older age, they've been very effective. But the younger ones, no. I would say we didn't do that much. And that may be where we're falling down. Because in years past, we made sure that a lot of our young people that are off at college, their parents got in behind them. That, I never was in any meeting that was ever mentioned this year. So
Well-
maybe that's one place we need to work on.
I don't know. I mean, people come in and talk to me all the time. Oh, I got to capture the millennials. Like, what does the data say? They don't vote. I mean, yeah, at a macro level. I mean, Obama tapped into it, but
They don't
They-
tap
they-
into it.
Don't you
They
think
didn't
Beto did too?
I think I think
yes,
he
he
did.
did.
No, I don't
Have
know.
you seen any
because-
numbers yet? Because I haven't seen.
No,
the
I mean,
breakdown.
heck, they haven't even canvassed the election. I mean, Tony Pippin's pool. is
Because
so
I think
confident.
that is like central to what he did
Yeah.
and what's going on. Just real quick, I'll tell you a story. 25 years ago, I got out of graduate school and I was asked to run the Republican Party in Harris County, okay? The Republican Party in Harris County is a big deal, okay? I mean, that's Houston, Texas, okay? Bigger than 32 state Republican organizations, okay? And so I went into that and I went to my first meeting, and at the end of the meeting, I looked around and I was talking to a couple of the, older guys there, and I was like, wow. I said, I'm really the youngest person here, Well, I'm gonna tell y'all, I don't go to as many Republican meetings, as I used to, but I still go. And when I do, I look around the room, and guess what? I'm still one of the younger guys, okay? And I'm 52 years old, okay? I'm 52 years old, and I look around this room right now. I guarantee I'm one of the 5 youngest people in this room, Yeah.
We got creamed in Harris County, didn't we, with the women judges?
I don't know. That's what I was asking Ed to
Yeah,
speak
there
to.
were 17 African-American judges, but then you had the county judge, Ed Emmett, come out and say, I'm gonna vote for Ted Cruz, or for Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Guess what? Bye-bye, Ed Emmett.
But
Not only did you
the point-
alienate all the Republicans, you didn't gain any friends with the Democrats. They're not gonna come vote for
the
you.
Republican title, the Republican shield did not help
No.
so many of the elected officials.
Yeah.
The people are tired about the Republican, and I think Beto, it wasn't being a Democrat, it was his personality. It was his charisma, it was his style. okay? One party.
Well, also, I don't think
Okay.
Cruz took him serious enough early on.
And,
I don't think Ted took him serious enough at all.
Well, I think in the last few weeks. he
Well,
did.
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that last few weeks.
Bento has
started getting
$38 million
polling
in the
Well, let's come back, this young man's got a question, all right, or, sorry.
Ed, you know, one of the things you talk about the elections of the last few years, but actually in 2017, when we ran the county elections here for the college, you saw a surge where the Democrats, they supported their candidates, and at least two of them got elected to the college board. They had a big, you know, sort of a big surge, a sign that they were getting organized, and they really were, as a result of getting organized, they were more becoming a party to be reckoned with here in College County. That was a great sign in 2017 when they put up their candidates and supported them, and they got elected countywide.
And that was Collin College, and that's where, you know, the millennials that we were talking about, they might have been more impactful there, because you know that influences their lives.
Yeah.
But you know, I just haven't seen it. Monica Alonso, she's, you know, in Dallas County, Monica's Hispanic, and you know she was on the city council. And all of her people were talking about millennials. We got to tap into millennials. I was like, I mean, I'm just supplying data, but I listen to what people are saying. I'm looking at the numbers and going, this is an old district. I mean, way older than most of Dallas County. She got crushed. They focused on millennials. It didn't help.
No, I think one of the things, I think somebody mentioned just about the cannibalization that sometimes happens during a primary in the Republicans and the search for that perfect candidate. And you talk about likability, and the Democrats weren't looking for the perfect candidate. They were looking for somebody likable like Beto, and they said, here's a guy with a DUI, and we still think he could beat Ted Cruz. And so seeing the Republican Party say, well, this guy's got a blemish or this or that, they're out looking for the perfect candidate that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And they're overlooking, in my opinion, maybe some people that could actually beat the Democrats, maybe get some of the young vote, do the Beto. If you got a guy with a DUI, imagine that you think can beat somebody with a clean record. I think that just says a lot about how willing they are as a party to get people out there that could actually win.
Yeah.
Look at Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Donald Trump. I don't think the majority of the people knew about the DUI. And here's something interesting. He owned it. Okay. Now, you know, you could. In fact, I had actually called Mary Spade to see if she could be here tonight because she's much more interesting than I am. But you know, Mary does this thing on messaging that is just amazing. And I'll tell you a guy that got in a bunch of trouble up in Frisco. There were two of them. They lied about being arrested in their Dallas Morning News interview. And you know, people don't care if you had a DUI 25 years ago or you served alcohol to a minor. But guess what? You lied to the Morning News last week. That's a character issue, and people do care about that. So I think, you know, to the extent that, you know, when he was asked about it, I mean, if you watch the debates, he was asked about it, he owned it.
But he said that he stayed at that hit and run thing, and there was actually video of him walking away.
Left. Yeah.
And so, and there were news articles saying he did lie.
Yeah.
But George Bush owned his problem.
Yep.
But people liked him, so it's like
Yeah.
it's likable.
And he had $40 million.
That helps.
This young man?
What data are you talking about that's gonna indicate to you that what they're talking about with the millennial vote is gonna?
Yeah, the actual numbers. I mean, I you know, I saw the early numbers, and there was just early voters because that's the only thing that I've really seen so far. But there was no indication that there was just this huge surge of younger voters. No. It's kind of like with Hispanics. I mean, people talk about the Hispanic wave. Joe and I have this friend, Ben Key, who's RNC. He's done the platform committee for the Republic. He lives here, well, he did live in Collin County twice. And, you know, Benny's been talking about all the Hispanic outreach. I'm like, Ben, Mark Vesey, that district that they drew, in southern Dallas County, all the way over to Tarrant County, they drew it for Hispanic.
Yes.
Mark Vesey is not Hispanic, he's African American. Why? Hispanics don't vote. City council districts in Dallas, they're all the same size. Jennifer Staubach Gates in North Dallas probably has about 12,000 people vote in her district. Monica Alonso, who I talked about, 1,200 people. It's a generational thing. And I think, as the next generation of Hispanics, become involved, parents have a distrust, they came from other countries, they don't trust the government. They don't vote, they don't participate. I really think, and call me crazy, but that Hispanics, work ethic, faith, family, the next generation, military service, they're not gonna be Democrats. I think they're gonna be Republicans.
They can be Republicans.
They can.
The second.
Let's get around. You have another question? Go ahead.
So on that note, what is it that they're gonna latch onto that's gonna make them proud to be a Republican? Because I can tell you right now, I know a lot of people my age that are not super proud and ready to go announce it to
Are you
the
talking
world.
about millennials?
I'm talking about 35 and younger.
Yeah.
They're not super proud to go out there and say, I'm a Republican. So what is it for those with the work ethic and everything that you just mentioned, military service, what is it that's gonna make them proud to say, I am a Republican?
Yeah.
What is the data say that message is what we should enhance?
So I think when they get into the workforce and they begin paying taxes and what have you, I mean,
Full of change without it.
yeah, their perspective is gonna change awful quick.
All right.
And I fight that with my nieces. We can talk later.
Go ahead, Mark.
Do you see any, do you exhibit any concern of the changing demographics in the county here with, say, the people from California and other areas bringing Democratic?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Toyota, you got all these technology companies coming in. Absolutely. I mean, Williamson County down, right outside of Austin. I mean, that used to be a Republican stronghold, and they were not this time. So, but again, the voter increase up to 2016 peaked, and now it's dropped off. So, it's kind of like, I think this is the worst for now. I mean, and you guys are busting at the seams with population. Just a real quick thing, somebody theorized that with all the apartments going in, that oh gosh, that's where all the Democrats are coming from. And I went in and I looked at, okay, let's do a program. Let's look at all. No, there were actually more Republicans that live in apartments that were voting. Now, that's not this cycle. This goes back a couple years ago. But there were more Republicans that lived in apartments that were voting with Democrats. And by the way, in 2012, when Republicans were talking in Dallas County, or when this first started in Collin County about all the Democrats from Dallas, they're moving to Collin County, and I looked at that. There were more Democrats relocating from Collin County to Dallas than the other way around. So, like I say, God we trust, all others must produce data.
Let's give it a